All right, so today we are dealing with secant intersection outside of a circle. Now remember, secant, right? We talked last time how a chord is the part of a line that's inside the circle. So from here to here is a chord. From here to here is also a chord. But when the line goes beyond, it goes outside the circle, it becomes a secant. It transforms, or it's called a sequent. So a chord is part of a secant. So here we have two secants. We have one that goes from here to here, and one that goes from here to here, right? So we're gonna write here, secants that intersect, right, where they touch outside the circle. So here is outside of a circle, right? Secants that intersect outside of a circle. The product means to multiply, right? Product means to multiply of their outer segments. So the part that's on the outside, look, outside the circle, here's one part outside the circle, and here's the second part out of the side of the circle. The product of their segments and the wholes are equal. So pretty much what that means is that when you multiply the outside times the whole thing is equal to the other outside times the whole thing, right? So again here, let's say we have A and B, and then we have C, and we have D. Now, the special ones here, the things that we have to worry about, we have to look at first is the outside. So the outside here is B on this one, right? Well, what's the whole thing? Well, the whole thing goes from, remember, so the outside, sorry, I'm gonna go back here. The outside is from here to here. So that's B here. The whole thing goes from here all the way over to here. So that's the whole thing. So the whole thing goes like this. From the left point all the way to the right point. Look at that, right? So the whole thing, what goes under the whole blue loop? A and B together. So let's see, let's follow the same routine on this bottom one here. So the outside is D here, right? And what's the whole thing? And again, the outside of this secant is from here to here also. And the whole thing is from this point all the way over to this point. So what makes up the whole thing? Well, it goes from here and it arcs all the way over to that outside right there. So the outside of this secant is D. The whole thing is under this blue arc is together C and D. So this says that the product of the outside, well, what's the outside? The outside is yellow times right? The whole thing, which is the whole thing. Yellow times the whole thing, which is blue, is equal to right? Is equal to the same thing on the bottom one. The outside, which is yellow, times the whole thing, which is blue. So, in this case, let's do this top one first. What is yellow? Yellow is B. B times, let's do the parentheses here. What is blue? What is the whole thing? From here all the way to here. There's two letters, A and B. So we're going to add them because together they make up the whole thing. So A plus B, look at that, is equal to this bottom secant, this yellow, which is D, times the whole thing. What's two letters are under this or over this whole blue line together? C and D. So C plus D. And that's our formula. Now, it looks confusing right now, but let's work it out and let's work out some examples, and I'll show you that the formula will make better sense, right? So let's take a look. So here's our first example. It says solve for x. We're going to get x by itself. So let's do this first. See, which is yellow? The two outsides here, right? So if I put my point here, and I point here, and my point there, these are two segments that are outside the triangle. So this is my yellow, 7 here, and this is my yellow, 8. Now, what is the whole thing, right? Well, the whole thing on this one, on this top secant, is from this point all the way to that point. And the whole thing of this secant is this point all the way to that point. So what is the whole thing? It goes from here, that point, all the way to that point. And this secant is this point all the way from that point. So remember, it's yellow times blue is equal to yellow times blue, right? So yellow times blue is equal to yellow, make it darker here, times blue. So the yellow represents the outside, right? The part that's outside the circle. And the blue represents the entire secant. So let's see. So let's take this top secant first. So what is the yellow of this top secant here, right? 8. So we're going to say, switch over, 8 times, what is the blue? What's covered under blue? From here all the way to there, it's x and 8. Remember, we say, what's under blue? These two, so we add those two because that's what makes up the entire secant. Look at this one. What makes up this entire secant from here to here? The x and the 8. So we're going to say x plus 8 is equal to, okay, we took care of the top one. Now the bottom one. What's the yellow on this bottom one here? 7. Times, parentheses, blue, the whole thing. What two numbers are the whole thing? 17 and 7. So 17 plus 7. Y, I'm sorry. 17 plus 7. Right? Now, I know it's confusing, but please rewind right now and make sure that you follow these steps exactly the way that I did them. Okay? From here, we're going to practice multiplication. 8 times x is 8x. 8 times 8 is 64. Equals to 17 plus 7, I can add inside the parentheses, so I'm going to add these two. 17 plus 7 is 24. And I'm going to draw my line of separation here, and in the end, I want to solve for x. X equals, so 7 times 4 is 168. So that times that is 168. Now these two, okay, I want to leave x here. So I'm going to leave this x here, 8x. So this plus 64, I'm going to cross it out, and I'm going to move it over, and I'm going to say minus 64, like that. And here I still have my 8x. 168 minus 64 is 104. And since this is 8 times x, I'm going to cross out 8, and I'm going to divide by 8 here. And 104 divided by 8 is 13. And that is my solution. X is equal to 13. Okay? I know that's multiple steps. That's okay. But please rewind the video, okay, and watch it again. And look at the steps carefully. Okay? Please make sure that you're doing this example with me on your own piece of paper. On your own piece of paper. Okay? But let's follow the steps again. Same steps. So our outside is in yellow for this next example. So from here to here is 8. From this point to this point is 9. The whole thing is from this point all the way to that point. That's the entire secant. And from here to here is the other secant. Now remember, the outside of the circle, the segment outside the circle, is in yellow. We highlight in yellow. Okay, so outside is 8 is in yellow. Outside, this 9 is in yellow. Okay, let's go back to our notes. The whole thing is in blue. The whole thing is in blue. So let's do the exact same thing. The whole thing is in blue. The whole thing is in blue. All right? So we have to remember that yellow times blue is equal to yellow times blue. All right. So let's take a look here. Let's do this left secant here. Let's do this one here first. So what is my yellow on this one here? It's 8. So I'm going to say 8 times, I'm going to use a parentheses, blue. The whole thing is both 19 and 8. So I'm going to say 19 plus 8 is blue. They're both 19 and 8 is equal to, so we took care of this secant. Now let's do this one here. Yellow, what's the yellow on this one here? The outside, the part outside the circle is 9 times, I'll use a parentheses, the blue, the whole thing. Well, what makes up the whole thing? X and 9 make up the whole thing. So I'm going to say X plus 9 makes up the whole thing. Now again here, we're going to do some multiplying. 8 times 19 is 152. Okay, use your calculator if you need to. 8 times 8 is plus 64 is equal to 9 times x is 9x. 9 times 9 is plus 81. So we're going to draw our line of separation here. My x is on the right side, so I want to leave x here by itself like this. So 152 plus 64 is 216. 216. Now, I want to get this 9x or this x by itself. So I'm going to take this positive 81, cross it out, and I'm going to bring it over here, and I'm going to make it minus 81. Just like that. And 216 minus 81 is 135. Now this 9x is still there, so I'm going to bring this down just like that. Now, 9x means 9 times x, so the opposite of multiplying is dividing. And 135 divided by 9 is 15. So 15 is equal to x. So my solution was x is equal to 15. Look at that. So, again, I know lots of steps, but please, everybody, rewind right now and watch this video again, okay? Look at the examples. Use your highlighters, use your colors, use your crayons, use your colored pencils, whatever it is that you need to do, okay, to set this up, okay? The outside is yellow, or you can use whatever colors you want, times the whole thing. So the outside times the whole thing is equal to the outside times the whole thing, right? We did that on every single example. The outside times the whole thing, yellow times blue. The outside times the whole thing. And on this one, the outside times the whole thing, yellow times blue, is equal to the outside times the whole thing, okay? Watch the video several times if you need to, okay? But I promise if you follow the steps, you will understand how to solve these problems.